Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today, and also pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Flynn. I'm very excited to be hosting today with my friend Ian Haigh. Hi Ian, how you doing?
Hey Flynn, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I love your glasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've worn them on Adobe Live. So
there you go. You look extra smart.
Well, thanks so much. I hope I live up to the image that the glasses are portraying.
Yeah, no pressure. Let me just see. Sorry, I thought, Johanna, you were telling me my mic wasn't working or something, but no, it's all good. We're just talking about ChatGPT in the background. Just a little bit of AI to kick off. What's up, chat? We are live, so if you have any questions as we're rolling along today, please don't hesitate to throw them in chat. We love getting questions. Hi, Alessandra, Gareth, Johanna, all here, which is great. We're here today, Tuesday, and we're also here on Wednesday for this two-part series. And if you're like me, I need to learn more motion. I just do. I don't know why I can't do it. I don't know why I haven't done it yet. But oh my gosh, need to learn After Effects a little bit better. I have been playing around a little bit, but I'm very excited to have Ian here taking us through some text animations, which is super cool. So Ian, do you want to, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then maybe we'll segue into what we're going to get into today.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm a motion fan. I've been doing it for a while. I remember the very first time I ever saw After Effects was when I was working in London. So that must have been in the 90s. It was a long time ago. And I was just blown away that someone had to, presumably it was a very simple animation back in those days, but the idea that you could actually put keyframes in and make something move around on your screen at that time was very new. And of course, After Effects has evolved a lot in that time, and I can see why you'd want to get into motion. It seems to be everywhere. Everyone's got a little screen in their pocket. And the best thing about it is it's fun. It's actually just like super fun to get into once you start to realize it's maybe not as intimidating as you'd imagined. And you can just put a keyframe here, and the computer does all the hard work of figuring out how it gets from there to there. And then you're on your way. It's kind of like Photoshop with time.
Right. Photoshop with time. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll speak to the higher ups, see if we can get that as the new tagline for After Effects. That's super cool.
Yeah. And if you're familiar with Photoshop, then you've sort of got some of the tools that you need in terms of layering images up or layering type up. And one of the cool things about After Effects is it does have text animators, which fly a little bit under the radar, I think, because it's not immediately obvious. It's not like perhaps as gentle as some of the other aspects of After Effects to get into. It can be a little bit intimidating, but today I've got a couple of techniques and we can talk through some of the different aspects of text animators to make it perhaps a little bit, give you an easier on-ramp to get you started and get your feet wet making text animations.
Awesome. All right. Sounds great. Let's jump over to your desktop. Oh, awesome. Wow.
Yeah, these are the experiments that I kind of put together to talk about over today and tomorrow. We might get through all of them or we might not, but it's kind of just, we'll start out over here at the top left and just look at what a text animator is and how it's comprised. And then we'll kind of work through these various examples along the way. And just have some fun with some type. And like you say, if there are any questions or anyone, if I'm going a little bit too quickly over anything, someone wants to go into a little bit more depth, then we can definitely backtrack and do that as well.
Awesome, that's great. Let's get stuck into it. There's only one request I've got in After Effects. I've got your camera over in the bottom left. So if we're going to be spending a lot of time in the timeline, if there's any way to kind of scooch that over a little bit, that might be better to do at the start.
Oh, so we're down here?
Yeah, your camera's down the bottom left. Yeah, so it's covering the mouse when it's in the bottom left. So if there's some way to kind of move the timeline just over to the right a little bit.
Like
a little bit more,
there?
a little bit more, a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah, cool. Just because I know that's perfect. You can even go back just a tiny bit, but yeah, just in case we're spending some time there.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Okay, cool. Well, let's just jump straight in there. So let's figure out. We're going to look at this one first of all. get rid of that so we're not looking at it. So a text animator, we'll start by just making, I'm going to make a new folder in After Effects for our little experiments over here, and make a new comp. We'll call that O1. And we'll start by, I'm just pressing Command T on my Mac, and we'll start by making some simple text over here and see how do we even get to this text animator thing that I've been talking about. So if you flip open, here's my text layer in After Effects. We're going to assume that you know a little bit about After Effects. And if I flip that open and we have the text down here, you've got this at the top, animate, and that's unique to the text layers. Only text layers let you do this. You've got animate, and then you've got all of these different properties that you can play around with. So I could just, for example, choose position is the easiest one to probably imagine at first. Hit position in there, absolutely nothing happens, and that's because it's added this range selector and position down here. We won't talk about that just yet, but the position is set to 0, so nothing's actually changed. Note that that position is separate to this position down here. So it's got under here, under animator 1, range selector and position is what we've just added to this text layer. So this works how you might expect. I can move it left or right or up and down. So if I were to move it up, it goes in a negative direction. And if I play it back now, absolutely nothing will happen because nothing's actually animated yet. We've just moved it up. However, if I flip that back open again, and we can start playing around with some of these, the range selector. So if you think about the position is the property that you want to change, the range selector, which is added by default, is how much of it you want to affect at any one time. So right now, starting at the very beginning and finishing at the very end. So we're going between 0 and 100. If I drag the end down, you can start to see something's happening now. We're moving the end of the text of the range from right to left. So you can already see that by animating that property, similarly, if I change it from the start, then it's moving from left to right. By animating either of these properties, you're going to actually change how much of that text is selected. So that is to say, how much of the text is being affected by this position parameter down here. So that's at minus 180 pixels at the moment. You can also, if I just drag that down a little bit and make it easier to see, you can see that there's actually a red line here as well. And I can do that visually too, just drag that in the interface also. And similarly with the start. So if you can imagine, so the start is where you begin affecting the text, and the end, you can drag those around. And then the offset moves the start and the end at the same time. So if I started over here at minus 100, so that's over at the very left of this text, and then move it over, then it's going to go through and gradually affect all of the text from the very beginning to the very end. So in its simplest form, if I go to 0 on my timeline, put a keyframe by clicking the stopwatch here at offset, and then I'll move, say, 4 seconds into the future, and then I'll change that offset to 100%, and I'll just stop my little, that's the preview area over here. And then when I press play, you can see, here we go. We're going from left to right. The range selector is moving through that line of text, and it's affecting it with the position parameter that we put in there. So cool. In its very simple form, there's a basic text animator.
Yeah. And so that second one just follows it along, like it follows at the same rate, like it just kind of tails it.
That's right. So you could do it differently. You could change, if I wanted to, rather than animating the offset, for example, perhaps I wanted it to all start at one end and all end up, not come back down again at all. Another way of doing it would be to, let's not worry about animating the offset at all. I'll just reset that parameter and turn off the stopwatch. So let's move that back to 0 at the start. So we could say we want to start at the end will start there at 0. So now both of the parameters are 0. So both of those red lines are here. And then we'll start the stopwatch, put a keyframe in there, come over to 4 seconds again. And now we'll move that red line here all the way to the end. So then rather than moving through the offset, what it will do when I press play is it'll start at the beginning and it will just move all of that text up and then it will stay there. So it's like we started at 0% of this position parameter, and then at the end, all of the characters are at 100% of that position parameter. So they're all being affected by the range selector.
Cool.
Does that make sense so far?
Does so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll have to stop the stream there though, because then I'll get completely, this is where I get lost. Let's roll. No, let's roll. Let's do it.
Right, cool. So in its most basic form, that's kind of a pretty easy way to get text doing something that you want. Now, some of these other, under the range selector, some of these other parameters, I think they can affect. Right now, it looks a bit janky because there's no easing. It's looking quite sort of staccato and not very pleasant. So what Adobe have done is given you a bunch of different shapes. So we're looking at the square shape now. They've also given you ramp up, ramp down, triangle, round, and smooth. And I have made this little chart that you can visualize the different shapes of the curve going through it. So when we're looking at square, it's very kind of, it just cuts off at a right angle. We've also got ramp up, which was doing something similar where the range selector will start down here, end up here. And similar, this is the opposite kind of thing. A triangle where it will come up and then meet at a point. Round, it's like a semicircle, and then smooth is a little bit like a kind of sine wave. So let's try one of these other shapes. So if we were looking, so square, let's look at smooth, which is similar to square. Starts low, goes high, and then comes low again, but it does that in a nice smooth fashion. So if I just, all I've got to do is change the smoothest here, sorry, not smoothest, shape down to smooth, you can immediately see the text takes on that kind of much smoother, different sort of way of moving. What we're seeing now though is that the animating the range selector isn't working for us in the same way. So that's where we need to animate the offset instead. So rather than animating the range selector, we want it to move all the way through the text, not just get to the end. It needs to keep on going and push the curve right past the end of the text. So by animating the offset, we will guarantee that it can do that. So we'll start at -100 over here, and then we'll finish at +100 over here. So when I play that back, our text is much smoother when it goes up and down.
Cool.
So another one to look at here is where right now it's doing it by every character is getting animated, and you can change that characters excluding spaces. So right now it's actually animating, believe it or not, the space in between, which you might want to do for timing purposes. But if I change that to characters excluding spaces, there's a subtle difference there where it'll just ignore the space in between.
Right.
And words is one that we'll use a lot as well. So then each word will act as a discrete unit rather than each character. So that might be sort of what you're after as well.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that After Effects had that, like had specific animations to that kind of detail for text. I would have thought you would have to basically make them as individual shapes sort of thing and then keyframe them out individually.
Yeah, I think that's probably I think a lot of people would imagine, would think along those lines, and it's one of the great sort of I think hidden gems. Once you start to discover what's possible with it, you can actually, and I've seen some people out there have done some amazing animations with text animators, and you can get really creative with it as well. Not even necessarily for animating text, but you could imagine using full stops for circles and making kind of various beautiful shapes and so on as well. So yeah, there's a lot of power under the hood, and if you take a little bit of time, and while I think of it as well, there's a whole bunch of presets So presets are great. So if I go to the effects and presets palette, which you access from the window menu up here, and flip down animation presets, and we have presets here, and then text, you've got a whole lot of pre-made presets which give you some idea of what you can do with the text animators in After Effects. So for example, if I look at animate in, and this has actually been, I believe, has been updated in recent version of After Effects, so there's all new. So if you looked at it in the past and you think, I know what presets are available, have another look, and you might find that there's some new
seems like
cool.
a lot. Yeah,
there's a lot. So yeah, if I just were to take, for example, I don't know, espresso eye chart, I'll drop that on there and see what happens when I play that back. It's
like random.
It's
does that
espresso
kind
eye
of
chart.
random, like almost like at an airport where the random letters are finding the right letter.
Exactly. And you can, just by flipping open, by looking at, you can see, I'm just going to expand that window there, you can see how they've built up that text.
That's really
selector
cool
as well. So
yeah. So it's not just you put it over the top and it's like hidden code or anything like that. It's as if someone has created it for you and you're opening their file.
Yeah, and that's a great way to learn. Like, I've learned so much by going through and looking how, just basically trying to dissect how someone else has put it together. And as you can imagine, the people who make After Effects, or the people who made this preset, really know what they're doing. And so there's a lot of good stuff in there to learn from. This, like, I haven't been through all of the new ones, but there's a whole lot of stuff in there. So you might find that everything you could possibly want is already in After Effects. So but I would encourage you to keep watching that, because you might learn something new.
Well, it's obviously great to learn how these sorts of things are built as well, because you might have the amount of times I've done this where there's been some sort of template that I've used or a preset that I've used. I did this in a project in December, actually, and I've sort of slapped it on. It was lower thirds, and I kind of popped it on, and they love them. It was perfect for the brand and the project. They said, "Oh, can you change it so that we add their titles below?" And I couldn't do it, like, especially in the time that I had. So I had to kind of find other presets and then add it in. So I kind of painted myself into a corner by not understanding how it was built and just using something quickly. And then the client change happened. I mean, that's the sort of thing that would happen if I built like a Squarespace website or something. Like, it's totally fine until the client asks you to change something that you just don't know how to change. And then you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to solve that.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's lots of good reasons for figuring out how this stuff works. But I completely relate to what you're saying. So once you put your preset on there, which we just did by just dragging and dropping straight onto that text layer, if you want to get rid of it again, with the text tool selected, which is just up here, or Command T, Control T on Windows, I can just right click on there and say remove all text animators, and now it will go back to its unanimated self. And that's a little shortcut as well. Before, when we added that text selector, we clicked on this animate menu down here in the timeline, but you can also, with the text tool selected, just right click on it and animate text from this pop-up menu over here as well.
Very cool.
So
hey, just before we jump on to the next bit, we have two questions in chat.
Sure.
Is it possible for you to listen to music while you edit and animate, or is it too distracting?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess, listening to music, or depending on how involved it is, sometimes I can even listen to a podcast, but that's less often. But the only time that you really can't is if you're editing to music, right. And then I think you would absolutely, then you've got to listen to what you're editing to. Yeah.
And what about talking as well? If it's like talking heads or something like that, you probably want to have the cans on and listening quite closely for background noise and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Although these days with some of the tools, Premiere now has got built-in transcription, and so you can actually, it's amazing how much you can do without listening to the audio.
Right.
Like, it really, you can sort of go through and you can get chunks of text and pop them out and move them around and so on, and you don't need to listen to all of the audio when you're doing those rough edits. Like it's only when later on when you need to fine tune and taking out ums and ahs and so on that you really need to concentrate and listen to it. But yeah, music, listening to music, definitely highly recommended when doing animating and text animators.
It's a big thumbs up. There was another chat as well. Is there any activity that you do to help yourself concentrate better or start off the day before you start working, like a mindfulness activity?
Yeah, I mean, when I was actually being really diligent, I found meditation was great. I haven't done that for quite some time, but otherwise, yeah, I think, just there's a lot to be said for just getting up, getting out into sunlight and doing some exercise. It really sets you up. You just feel fantastic all day, and the usual kind of like coffee and all that kind of thing. But yeah, if you can get out there, even just going for a quick walk or something like that, I reckon that would definitely start your day off right.
Awesome. All right, cool. Back to it.
It's wellness with Ian. The other trick that I would definitely recommend, and I got this from somebody on YouTube, so whoever you are out there, thank you for this trick. I've used it in the past and it is really helpful. And we'll come back to, so it's basically coming back to our grid. We're looking at the top left one here, visualize. We'll open up that one, and what that is effectively, it's making a text animator of just a line of dots. So I'm going to make a new experiment over here, and I'm going to make a new text object, a new text layer. Start typing in some dots and just go copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Now, what's really cool about using a line of dots like this is that it kind of shows you the shape that we're looking at over here. It lets you see the shape of the text animate of the range selector. So it lets you kind of preview, like in a graph form, how the range selector is going to move through your text. So it's pretty easy to start by doing an example. Make these dots a little bit smaller, and then I'll just paste them in again. So that's just text. There's nothing special about it. It's just full stops. Now I can add a text animator in here. We'll do position again. And under the range selector, we'll change that to say ramp up. And when I move, I need to change the position as well, so that something actually happens. We can start seeing it starting to work now. So the ramp up one, if you remember, it'll start at a certain value and then it will finish at a certain value. So right now we can say finish. We want you to finish it up here. It's when we're looking at the start, it's at 0. The end is at 100%. So it's affecting the entire block of text, and each step it's just affecting it a little bit more with that final position, if you like. So starting at 0% and it's finishing at 100%. So we could change the shape of that by moving our start and end like we did before, and then animate that through by animating the offset. So if we were to apply that to another block of text, now it would start down here and it would end up here. And we can see that quite easily by, we'll get another block of text over here, another block of text. And this is, I do quite like this little trick. If I now go back into my timeline, and this is this line here with our little dots, that's the one that we've applied the text animator to. And if I flip that open and I select the text animator and then go to the edit menu, I can say copy with relative property links or all property links. Either of those should work. When if I do that, and then I go and paste that onto another block of text, it's added the text animator, but it's added it with expressions. So that now if I come back into my text animator and I edit, this is on the this layer here with the dots. If I edit that, it changes the other one.
Wow, so they're linked. They're essentially the same parameters. They're the same
That's
information.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I can play around with the text animator on the top, and it will immediately reflect the text animator on the bottom. And you can use that anywhere in After Effects if you want to link things together. So super handy little trick. If you actually want to see how it's implemented, you just go into here. I'm going to select the block of text that I just pasted onto, tap the E key twice, and it shows me it's actually made, it's a bit unwieldy layer name because it's just heaps of dots, but it's actually put an expression into all of these properties that are linked to this text selector down here. I hope that makes sense, and it's a slightly maybe a little bit esoteric, but for our purposes, all we've done is we've kind of linked these together so that you can edit one and it will be reflected in the other.
Cool. I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's super cool. Okay, I love the copying and pasting. You're just going to check every time. Am I following? I'll tell you if I'm not. I promise. I'll be honest. I only recently found out in Premiere when I was watching someone else using it, like over the shoulder, that you could just copy all of your properties over. And I went, oh my God, I'm so glad I saw that, because I was about to do another Premiere project that week. And then also kicking myself that I didn't know that. So it was color graded. I think there was a crop in there, and there was a chroma key as well. And I thought I would have had to have done that because I'd already spaced everything out. And I was thinking, do I do this at the start and then apply it later, or do I? And he was just showing me. He just copied everything, pasted on the next thing, and then paste. And I was like, wow, that would have taken me hours and hours. And if I had any changes later, I would have had to, tweak everything individually. So very useful to learn that. Also, there's a comment on YouTube. Sir, kindly make videos on kinetic typography transition and intro opening transition with images and graphics. There you go.
Sure.
Future video.
I'll do that this afternoon. I would. I love all that kind of thing. I think that's great. So maybe on a future Adobe Live, we can look into some of those.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So just before I move on as well, so that when we copied with property links, that would also work in a different composition as well, which is pretty cool. So if I said copy with property links, I can make a brand new comp over here and say banana, mango, grapefruit, root. And if I just hit paste over there, we can see that is being affected by, if I go and change a property in this one, for example, change the start over there, then go back over to the new one that I just made, you can see that it's reflected over here as well. So it doesn't have to be in the same comp.
Yeah, wow. That's cool.
All right. So that's so now we can sort of see, because we've got this graph kind of set up over here, we can look into, we've got the ramp up shape under our range selector, and we can play around now with some of these other, mostly the one that we're interested in is ease high and ease low. So what these do is change the shape of the curve. So you can see by dragging an ease high, we can make that ease in, ease out, and we can drag that one as well. You can see visually how that affects. So you get this, by having that graph over there, you can see something that's otherwise these numbers can be sort of, I want to say, opaque or difficult to interpret. But with that line in there, you can sort of see very easily how they affect the text. So you can then really craft how you want your curve to affect your text. And then by animating just put the offset animation in there again, so we can see what happens when it actually animates. So boom, starting at minus 100, ending at 100. So you can sort of see there how that will affect. And so before, when we had that square animator in there, it was kind of janky and just went with no easing, no acceleration, no deceleration, and it looked bad, B-A-D, bad. And now we've put this in here and we've got that beautiful curve and it looks good. So I think
this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say G-U-D, good. And so now it's, I think, yeah, even just understanding how that curve affects the text animator. So now you could sort of say, all right, cool, we've got the curve how we want. If we wanted this type to fly in from the top of the screen, for example, and just land in a nice spot. So hide this layer, we don't need that right now. I'll flip that open and give ourselves a little bit more space. We could say, oh, like right now, so they're all, these are all still connected to the other line of text. So what I might do is actually just get rid of that one, and we'll just put the text in there like that, so that we are no longer. I've just broken those links because now I'm happy with the curve. It behaves the way that we like. It's looking good. So now it's really just a matter of tweaking these parameters so that the text will fly in from the top of the screen, for example. So we could say we want it to be by words, change that to words, and now they're coming in like that. And we'll say, all right, that's the second keyframe, that's where we want the text to end up. And we could say, all right, we want you to start even higher. We could just move that off the screen. It comes down, and we could just change this parameter down here so that it moves a bit further. Now this is exactly what I was hoping would happen. This isn't working, and that's not working because I used ramp up. So effectively, what that means is it's starting at the parameter that I put in here, the position, and it's ending at 0, if you like. So you can sort of see the shape of the block up here. It kind of starts up high and then it comes down low. So we can think about it in two different ways. You could sort of say, all right, I need you to, we could either change it to ramp down, and that way it kind of, and then change the distance that it moves, or you could change the, there's quite a bit of fiddling around I found with text animators, just figuring out which direction things go in and so on. So if I were to just increase this number so that it starts up higher and then play it back, then we kind of get what we were after before.
Nice.
Alternatively, you could do the same sort of thing with ramp down and just move the text in the other direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So problem solving, isn't it? It's like, okay, that's not working. Why isn't that working? And then kind of figuring it out, and one thing kind of leading to another.
Yeah, and I think that's when I think that there's a lot to be said for kind of like you break it down into like its smallest little chunks and get that working, and then you move on to the next problem, if you like, to kind of like you build it up like that, which leads nicely into the next one, which is layering. And that's where you can actually layer text animators on top of each other, so you don't have to do everything in one text animator. So in this one, you can see, I'll open that one up in here. And just by the way, all of these words are lyrics from songs from Australian and New Zealand artists. And I've given them all a little credit down here as well. In fact, this is something I just remembered as well. Guys, in a world first, for me anyway, I made a Spotify playlist of the tracks that I've referenced. So if you want to listen along at home to the official Spotify playlist for this Adobe Live, just type it into your browser, bit.ly/Ian type. That'll take you to the playlist. So all of these artists are in that playlist.
We're not going to play it on stream because
we're not going to play it on stream. This is for you to do in the privacy of your own home. No. Yeah, correct. Okay, cool. So we in this one we've got more than one text selector on here. So you can sort of see it comes in off the screen, and then there's a little bit of where it goes, it's just a little bit of overshoot, and then it settles into place. So it starts down there. So that's actually, you could do that with one text selector, but it's kind of easier to do it with more than one. So what we'll do, I kind of like that font, which is from Adobe fonts, and I will make a new, make a brand new one over here as well. Call that 03. I'm going to get my type in there, and then I will just start with nothing up my sleeves. I'll right click on that and go remove all text animators. So the first thing to do when we're looking at this example is we want it to start off the bottom of the screen and come in onto the top of the screen.
Right.
So we're going to use a right click and put a position parameter on there. Change that to open the range selector, and we'll change it to words because we know we want them all to be grouped by words, not by characters. And now let's move the position right off the screen. And we know that we're going to want to move the offset from -100 over to 100. Okay, and we'll see what happens first of all. Now, we've got the square parameter type. So the square parameter type starts at one value, goes to another value, and then ends up at the original value.
And so that's what we want. Default. Does it always just default to that? That's
the default. Yeah.
Right.
So if that's why something's not working the way that you want, maybe it's you'd want to try it. I think ramp up and ramp down, I find those are very handy because they let you have a really beautiful, nice easing, and they basically mean like start in one place and then end up in another place. Kind of thing. Once that offset has moved all the way through, or that's how I think of it anyway. So rather than square, so that's starting somewhere and then ends up in the same place. Let's choose, and I can never remember which one's which, so we'll just try ramp up and we'll see what that does. And I shouldn't have said I can never remember because I got it right first time. Look at that. Nailed it. So there we go. It's kind of moving just how we want. And then you can play around a little bit with that easing. So again, I like to have one of those little, I think I've got one over here. These are my little experiments. I'm just going to call that dots. So just to get the curve right, I find sometimes it's handy just to have one of these dots set up in a different comp. And then I can say, all right, I will add my text animator on there. And this is really just for the easing. So I'll start with position and I'll move that off somewhere. Now, the one that we were looking at was ramp up. So I'll change that to ramp up as well. And now just move that, move in the start and the end so we can sort of get a better picture of the curve there.
It's interesting that you just put the dots in there that we sort of showed in the previous example. Alessandra asked, do you always do this, the dot stuff, before you do the animation part?
Not always. I think it's more, sometimes I think it's helpful, particularly if you're trying to get the easing in, the easing out, and you want a visual representation of it. Yeah. That's when I think the dots are quite handy. But yeah, it's not strictly necessary. Sometimes I think it's, once you start to build up a few presets as well, then you might not need to always be reaching for the trusty old dots. But certainly I find it, if you're a visual kind of thinker, then it's particularly with ramp up, ramp down, ease high, ease low, it's not always obvious to me what those are referring to, and then I can get the old dots.
And I think a lot of designers are like visual learners, right? And so if you're a visual learner too, like coming from graphic design, static design, illustration, that kind of thing, then having that visual reference is super handy.
Super handy. And so we can sort of see here, if I'm looking at that the position and that, so that ramp up, so it's coming in from off the screen. If we then change this to change the easing height, so we might say, depending on how you want it to look, but we don't need it to. You kind of get like a really exponential sort of curve here. So if you think about what this graph is telling you, for example, it's basically saying, I've even gone into negative numbers under the ease low, and that's giving it a more extreme curve, sort of approaching that expo curve. So it's saying like nothing, suddenly whoosh, it leaps into action, and then it comes into a gradual kind of slowdown over here. So if we think that's looking interesting, we can copy, just select those two properties, ease high, ease low, come over here, and then we'll paste them into there, and we'll see what that does. Just change my time preview over there, and I've got it exactly backwards. So completely upside down. That's not what I wanted at all. So we'll go back into here. We'll swap these numbers around. So that one goes to the minus, and this one goes to the plus, the positive kind of thing. So there we go. So let's see what that does. That's more like it.
Nice.
So we're looking at that curve. That curve would probably make more sense to me anyway. No, that's not making sense to me at all. And that's what I mean by playing around with these. And I think it's easy to lose track. It's easy for me to lose track of the directions: ramp up, ramp down, ease high, ease low, and which way the curve's going. But you can see that this beautiful kind of curve is, it's like it's going from left to right. And if we change it to ramp down, maybe that's more that represents visually to me what we're looking at on this screen. So that just by flipping it from one to the other, you can sort of see you're going to get something that's closer to what you are after. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So then this one, another important thing to bear in mind as well is naming things, because once you start layering your text animators, it can get very confusing. You start to think like, what is this one doing? So we'll call this one zoom up from bottom. So that's our first text selector, text animator rather. And now we wanted to we'll go back to our reference. It kind of overshoots and just comes gradually back into place. So I can just turn that off with this icon right now. And now if I play it back, nothing happens. So we're just saying like, don't want to see what that text animator does right now. So we can craft a new text animator. So what I'll do is I'm just going to hit Command D to duplicate the one that we've already got. And what we want is, it's kind of going to be from the position, we want it to come back, but in a smaller amount. So it'll be like, say, -50. So in the opposite direction, we had one coming from right off the bottom of the screen all the way up, and now we want it to go in the opposite direction, just gently down. So let's see what that looks like first of all. Nothing's happening because the eyeball is off, because I just duplicated it and put that back on. And now it's kind of get the small amount of movement is good, but the easing is wrong, because you can sort of see that it moves in a quite jerky sort of style, because it's inherited the movement from above. So coming back to our little trusty little dots again, we just try ease high and ease low. I'm just going to put in 50 for both of them, and that's just going to be gradual amount of easing in both directions. So let's see what that does. So from the text animator, we'll call this gentle rest.
Gentle rest. Oh,
and
I like that. That's what I need.
Yeah, we all need a gentle rest from time to time. When I play that back, it's kind of, that sort of feels a little bit more like it.
Looks like it's kind of nudging the below text. It's kind of giving a little bit, hey.
Yeah. That's pretty nice. Let's see what it looks like when we combine them. So now when I turn back on zoom up from bottom, it's sort of not doing anything, and that's because it's doing them at exactly the same time, because the keyframes are lined up with each other. So what we kind of want to do is we like the way that this comes in. If I just move these keyframes, I'll just zoom in a little bit here, and I'm just going to drag that over manually. I want the distance between them to be the same, because I want it to take the same amount of time. If I just move those over 1, 2, 3, 4, say something like that, I'm going to play that back and we'll see what happens. You can start to see now, because they're slightly offset, they are actually moving. You're getting that little bit of overshoot. If I increase the the distance that it moves, so -50 will make it -150 for our gentle rest, and play that back, then you can see that it does actually kind of have that overshoot effect that we were looking for. So that's the kind of how you can layer up those different text animators. So they interact with each other. And that is what this mode selector here, this mode option does. It's kind of when you're getting into like Photoshop, if you've ever played around with the different kind of ways that layers interact with each other, like overlay, lighten, add, multiply, it's like you've kind of got a curve. You've kind of got these two things interacting, and you're telling the program how you want them to interact. So another way of thinking about it is, and this is just as a quick aside, if I make let's make a new experiment over here. Coming back to the dots again, the easiest way to see it. If I have, if I've got some dots like that, and I have I've got one text animator at the moment. Let's make it square, so it's nice and simple to sort of see. So in this instance, here's the sort of start and end, and then the offset is kind of like in the middle right now. Move that left and right. If I can duplicate not the animator, but the range selector. So I'll duplicate that. First of all, nothing seems to happen. But if I flip this open, and now I can change from add, I could change this one to, I could change it to subtract, for example. So it's subtracting, because they were identical to begin with. It's just made it into a straight line. But now if I change the shape of it, to say make that a triangle,
right?
Oh, it's got easing on, which is why it's looking a bit weird. It's subtracted the triangle shape from the square shape, and I can maybe make that a little bit more obvious by changing how wide my square is up here. So now you can see, if I change this to the triangle one here, I can change the width of my triangle. So you can layer up. That one's with subtract. You've got intersect. So now it's basically knocking that triangle out of my little square. I can't even see the square anymore. Round, for example, as well. It's I just changed that to, this is, because this is a live demo, this is not doing what I expected it to.
It's amazing. We made it to almost like 6 or 7 minutes left before anything kind of went off the rails, which is pretty good for a live.
I've just managed to keep it hidden from you so far. But that's so we've basically got to number 2, and we've got 6 or 7 minutes left. But that's good. I'd rather have too much than not enough. But yeah, it's you can, putting these together, you can kind of get very, very sophisticated. Oh, that's more interesting. So now you can see the square shape, and then underneath it with the difference mode, I've knocked out the round shape underneath. So they're joined together now. They're both being affected by the same position parameter, but you can now build up some weird and wonderful sort of shapes by layering those text selectors up. So that's basically what that means under the mode there. And like I say, it's similar to Photoshop's layer blending modes.
Yeah.
So,
that's
all right,
cool.
you're with me. Yeah,
I am. I want to see what that looks like as text. I'm trying to understand. So I think this is the first case where the visual representation of the dots has made it potentially more confusing. In every other case, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It kind of ramps up, it ramps down, it eases, all that sort of stuff. Potentially more confusing, which is the goal here on Adobe Live. Like, I'm trying to visualize what it would do.
More confusing.
I think it'll snap into place, but then I don't know what the arch is going to do.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Right, we'll keep on using the position. We'll use position once, but then I think it will also show a different property as well to just really blow your mind. So if I was to go in here, we'll go into the animator again. I'm going to select copy with property. I don't have to do the property links. I can just select the animator and hit copy. and then go to my other layer and just hit paste.
Nice.
You can see the shape. You can see the shape of it there.
But we need to make it words instead of letters, right?
Correct. And that's actually, I hadn't made that words in there. But yeah, we'll make that and go into the animator. We'll make that into both of them into words. You can even mix one words and one character, so it gets completely mind-bending really quickly. And then we'll move the offset. Right now you could move just the offset of 1, for example, if you wanted to. And actually that would be a good little demo for after this. But I'll just move the offset, animate them both. So they both start at -100. Put a keyframe in there, put a keyframe in here and go to 100. I'm going to copy that whole thing and paste it there. So now when I press play, there's what that curve looks like. So is that useful? Maybe. Maybe that's exactly what you want.
What you need,
but
yeah.
It does show if you can imagine trying to animate that manually would be confusing.
Yeah, like if you were using keyframes in the graph editor or the speed editor or time editor or whatever it is. Totally. I imagine that would be lots of keyframes.
And I realize we're kind of near the end of our allotted time, so I just wanted to show you one more example of layering those text layers. I think this is pretty cool as well. So I'm going to take my potentially more confusing again and remove all text animators, change that to an exclamation mark, and there's one range selector that we haven't a selector that we haven't even spoken about yet. So what I'm going to do here is we'll animate text, we'll put the position on again, and let's say we just want to change the y-axis at the moment. So right now it's automatically added a range selector. I can also add a brand new selector by using this pop-up menu, and there's one in here called Wiggly. If I add a Wiggly selector, and we'll change that to words as well, and if I just now hit play, it automatically animates and it just wiggles them around.
It gives a little wiggle.
And it does a little wiggle, and what's cool about that is, I'll change it back to characters, as it's wiggling all of these characters. Because that interacts with the range selector above it, I could then change how much of the wiggling I want. So if I chose, for example, under this range selector at the top, the shape, make that smooth, so then it gradually wiggles more in the middle. So now we can sort of see it's only going to wiggle those characters in the middle because of the way that this range selector at the top has got a smooth. So you can sort of see, you can imagine it's using this curve, and then it's wiggling only this part of the curve. And so you could have, for example, if we were to animate the offset of the top one, then we are going to get a fairly nice little limited wiggle that just passes through our letters.
Oh, cool. So it kind of comes across. We're going to have to leave it there. That is the end of our time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Ian, for taking us through all of that. I followed like 90%. There was that one little extra bit I'll have to go back and rewatch, but that was great. Your explanations were awesome. And I had a really good time. I hope you did too.
Thanks so much. And more wiggling and ranges tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. Look forward to some more.
Excellent. All right, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time to go along with part 2, and we'll be jumping into more of this text animation stuff. Hope to see you there. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.